people could see what happens every Thursday at 12 noon. Spencer Oliver just doesn't come into the studio. Before he even sits down, good afternoon, Jim. Good afternoon, Simon. How are you both? Show's going well. You're just a little ray of sunshine. And I could reach out in this small studio, pull you to me, and kiss your forehead. That's exactly how I feel about you, Spencer, this lunchtime. Ignore him.
Simon,
we might do that in the next hour.
Simon, do you want to add to that?
Doesn't he? He just spreads goodwill and bonhomie everywhere he goes. And you can't fault somebody like that.
Thank you, sir.
Little bundle of joy.
A little bundle of joy. Spencer,
Except if your name is Fisher.
yes, now we're going to get to that. We will get to that. The Fisher family are none too happy with you and Gareth A. Davis. In the meantime, Spencer, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Absolute delight to have you here in studio. Anthony Cacace damaged Lee Wood's Nottingham homecoming. These two had the greatest of mutual respect, but there was only one winner, and it wasn't Lee Wood. Cacace won it. He retained his IBO super featherweight title, a 9th round stoppage of Lee Wood at Nottingham's Motorpoint Arena on Saturday. I mean, is the best yet to come from Cacace?
Well, yeah,
he's 36.
He's one of those guys that just seems to have been improving in his later years. I mean, both guys were 36 years of age. Lee Wood's had a long career, tough career, and you could see it was evident on the night that he had sort of come to the end of the road in many ways at that top level. But Anthony Cacace seems to be improving all the time. You know, he's going from strength to strength. It was a great respect from both guys, which is always nice to see, because we don't get that a lot in boxing these days, you know. And yeah, they showed great mutual respect, but they both knew what they were going into. It was a tough fight. I mean, Wood had his moments in that fight, but Cacace sort of turned the screw when he had to turn the screw, and it was a great performance and a brilliant stoppage by Ben Davison as well, who jumped up and threw the towel in that 9th round. It was a great stoppage, great timing.
Brilliant. I mean, following wins over the previously undefeated Joe Cordina and Josh Warrington, Cacace has now beaten 3 two-time champions in succession in the last year. He's flying right now. This was Cacace.
I'm always going to the Lions Den. Like, when am I fighting in Belfast? I mean, I'm fighting, this is my 3rd two-time world champion in a row. I mean, I've got nothing more to prove. I mean, I've beaten the best. I've beaten the best in featherweight. I've beaten the best in super featherweight in Britain. I am the #1, no doubt about it. So, show me the money. Let's not mess about anymore. I just want to have the big opportunities, more belts, and the big money. It's more about money. I've got 3 children. Time to buy a couple of houses, you know.
Well, he's not wrong. He puts himself through the mill to get there. Cacace's record now, Simon, stands at 24 wins and 1 defeat from 25 fights. Yeah. I mean, this guy is truly a model in his profession.
Yeah, and he deserves it. I mean, I think I'm not so sure I concur with the fact that Lee Wood's career is finished. I think he may want to take that decision because economically he's in a position to do so.
Yeah, crossroads.
There was a lot of disadvantages that Lee had going into this fight. There's no depreciation or denigration of the achievement from Anthony Cacace. He's gone up a weight class and he hasn't fought for 19 months. And it was there to be seen. And even Anthony Cacace said after the fight, I did not fight the best version of Lee Wood. And there were arguments in my mind about whether this fight could be won by Lee Wood, because I felt that when he beat Joe Cordina, which was a brilliant performance of Cacace, Cordina was struggling at the weight. Josh Warrington is a warrior, but we're seeing the other side of Josh Warrington's career. So whilst those are 2 very commendable victories, they have to be taken in the context. His performance against Lee Wood was brilliant. And it gives him an opportunity. Maybe he'll fight Shakir Foster for the WBC belt.
Yeah.
And create opportunities for himself back in Belfast. And what it is good to see is that these lower weight classes are getting the recognition, getting the regard, and also getting the finances.
Yeah, I think he deserves those big fights now. Like Sugar Nunes, who was the mandatory for his IBF title before he relinquished that was a fight that he was going to go into, which was a tough fight. It was going to be a tough one, and the Lee Wood fight was presented to him. They fought for the IBO title that for the Cacace had. And I think that was the right decision, because Simon's right in what he says, that at this stage of your career now, it's about the finances. Where do you go best? That's going to, you need to get some reward back from these fights. And he chose that fight, and you go, where does he look at now? Is it a unification fight for the WBC title? Or does he look for another Irish fighter, someone like Michael Conlon, who's sort of trying to get himself back to the top, but would be a big money fight out in Ireland? Conlon would have to step up in weight as well, but that's where he's at in his career now. I think he deserves it, Cacace. He's a great fighter, and by the way, yeah, I'm not saying Lee Wood's finished at that. I said maybe at the top level from what we saw there, maybe he's not there. And you're right in what you say, by the way.
He's got to get busy though, Spencer, hasn't he?
Huh?
He's got to get busy, Lee Wood.
Yeah, Simon's right. 19 months out of the ring, and it will show. And we did see that. And stepping up in weight is huge. For the smaller guys, it's a big thing. Jump up from featherweight to super featherweight. 4 pounds doesn't sound a lot, but it is a lot. You know, and you need to grow into that.
Elsewhere, yesterday we saw British heavyweight Fabio Wardley and the Australian Justice Huni, who spoke to us before he flew over to the UK. They came face to face for the first time ahead of their Portman Road fight in Ipswich on the 7th of June. Again, and decent to see it. Utmost respect for each other. Wardley and Huni.
Look, I understand he's taking this fight on short notice, but I'd probably urge him to do a little bit more homework, because if you think that all I've got is power, when it's going to be a rough night for you on the 7th of June. And even if that is the case, the likes of, all you have to look at is the likes of people like Deontay Wilder or something. He did pretty well, having pretty much all just power. So I can get there if I need to. But me, the team, Frank, everyone over on this side of the table, even Eddie over there knows as well. There's more in my bag than just power. I've proved that it only takes you 2 or 3 times to look through some of my fights and look through look through some of my record and have a look through there and see that, yeah, look, don't get me wrong, them fights always end in me either dropping my opponent or getting them out of there, which is the power proven, but also to set them things up, to put them punches in place, to put the whole pie together, comes from boxing ability, boxing IQ, and studying my opponent, and that's something that I do very well.
I'm not just going to stand there to be hit. Look, I believe mostly or nearly all of his opponents have been people that have made the fight a 50-50 fight by just standing there and, seeing who lands the big shot first. Whereas I'm not going to be that guy that is just standing there to be hit and waiting, to give him that opportunity. I'm going to make my own opportunities, and I think he's going to find out June 7th.
Oh, I don't doubt Huni's credentials when you look at them. He's a perfect record, Spence. 12 fights, 7 of those wins coming inside the distance.
Yeah, a lot of people would say this is an opportunity to maybe come too soon for Huni, but he's a decent fighter who's been around a long time as an amateur, had a great amateur pedigree as well, and we saw the first time he come to light was when he beat Kevin Lorena.
And he got wobbled.
And he got wobbled badly in the
wobbled.
second, and the 10th he was totally gone, but he survived it, and I think that's good preparation going into a fight like this.
I mean, Kevin Lorena doesn't hit like Fabio Wardley.
Absolutely. That's where I was going with it, Simon. I think he's quite straight-backed, and we know what Fabio Wardley's like. He's one of those rare breed that likes to have it tough, likes to have a fight. There is boxing ability with Fabio Wardley as well.
Yeah.
And at some point, Huni's going to have to stand there and have a trade with him. And from the evidence that we saw against Lorena, it's going to be a tough night for him. It's a great fight. A better replacement than Baby Miller, who he was originally meant to be fighting.
Right.
This is a better fight right now.
I mean, Wardley's more than just power, Simon, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the 3 fights we've seen Fabio in have been about power, that ones that have catapulted him into the public conscious. He's beaten names like Eric Molina, but they were really at the back end of their career. But it's the 2 Fraser Clark fights and the David Adelaide fight. And there were times in the Adelaide fight where he struggled a little bit, and it was his power that got him out of it. And in the Fraser Clark fight, it was a war the first time around, and it was his power.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to denigrate him by suggesting that he hasn't got more, because Fabio is a great speaker, a great studier of the sport, and learns very quickly. But his real asset, as we all know, is the fact that he is incredibly game, can take a shot, but boy, can he land one.
Yeah. And in the build-up to it, Spencer, I mean, unsavoury doesn't always win the day, does it? I'm thinking of Miller's antics and what he's been like.
Yeah.
Motor mouth at press conferences. Even the Eubank egg slap. These two just got on with it.
Absolutely. Listen, I think boxing has very much become theatre. That's sort of the way that it's gone now, and we see a lot of this pantomime stuff that we see in the build-ups to these fights. But some fights don't need that. When you get 2 guys, Huni's one of those guys that's sort of like well-spoken, well-respectful, but he knows what he's going into. Fabio Wardley, as Simon said there, is a brilliant speaker. It's going to be a good night, a very good night.
The biggest fights that catch an imagination, whether you like it or not, are the ones that have some spite.
Absolutely.
Have some spike. Whether it's, previous incarnations with Mike Tyson, or whether it's Fury and his, Mickey taking of Vladimir Klitschko.
So respect doesn't sell.
Well, Not the same way. Notoriety, infamy sells much. We live in a country that survives on bad news. We don't want to hear about good news. Good news lasts about 5 columns in a newspaper. Bad news fills the entire newspaper up.
I think respect.
It's nice to see respect.
It appeals to the boxing purist, but to the guy that likes to come in and out of boxing from time to time, they like that panto. That panto. They like that theatre.
Dillian White's back. He's going to return to the ring on this undercard.
It's incredible.
Fighting who?
We don't know that yet. We're going to hear that in the forthcoming days, I believe. So Dillian White is back, which is good news. I think he brings something to the table. It's one of those situations where Fabio Wardley was under Dillian White's management team, and now he's fighting on Fabio's undercard, where sort of Fabio's always looked up to Dillian, so the tide has turned in many ways. But Dillian White's looking to get himself back to the top, and we get a chance to see that on the undercard, which is great news.
Good. A reminder, this weekend a massive heavyweight rematch is taking place after December's controversial showdown. Fisher against Allen 2, live this Saturday, only on DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com/boxing, and Dave Allen is on the way. Thursday lunchtime, that means Spencer Oliver is in with Simon and myself as we are talking boxing. We shall continue to do that. Remember, this Saturday night from the Copper Box in London sees the rematch for Dave Allen versus Johnny Fisher. We'll keep Spencer away from the Fisher family, but Dave Allen is going to be coming in and joining us live. Last month on the Ben Eubank undercard, and I don't know about you, Spencer, I enjoyed this. I was sitting at close quarters watching it. Two great boxers, two great athletes. Anthony Yarde finally settled his rivalry with Lyndon Arthur, winning via a unanimous decision. But it was interesting that before we speak to the manager of Anthony Yarde, Tunde Ajayi, and we're going to join Tunde live in a second or two, before Yarde went in again against Lyndon Arthur, he was asked, why not Callum Smith? Because that's a fight many people want to see.
We tried to get the Joshua Buatsi fight and we tried to get the Callum Smith fight. They chose to fight each other. Callum Smith said in public he's retiring, and then he fought Joshua Buatsi. Joshua Buatsi took 2 other fights before he fought me. He said he was going to fight me after Hutchison, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, nobody knew this fight was going to happen. He's fighting Smith. So no one can say that these fights haven't happened because of me. I've shown my character, and I'm getting annoyed by people doubting my character. I fought Beterbiev when he was undefeated, all knockouts. No one questioned my character in terms of who I'm willing to fight. I went to Russia to fight Kovalev. These guys are more dangerous than Joshua Buatsi. So my character is, if there's an opportunity and there's a big fight, I'm going for it.
You got to admire that, have you not? Many people still calling for Anthony Yarde against Callum Smith. I mentioned Anthony's manager, Tunde Ajayi. Tunde joins us live this lunchtime. Tunde, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. Jim.
Good to speak to you, mate. Thanks so much for joining us. Listen, your man, Anthony, has he finally settled this rivalry with Arthur?
I would say so. Lyndon and Pat have literally been a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from for many years, and it was great to finally put that to bed, because I've always known that Ant is a level above the Lyndon Arthurs of this world, and that's not to say that Lyndon Arthur is not a world-class fighter, because he is.
Yeah, and are you now talking about your man Anthony Yarde fighting Callum Smith?
Listen, we're ready. It's a fight. To me, the fight's already signed, sealed, and delivers. I've seen the first swerving has already started. It started last year when they offered us the fight. We accepted with open arms, and George Warren, that is, told me to retire. They told me he's on holiday. Told me he's getting married, and we would never hear from Callum Smith again. Lo and behold, he pops up, has a run out, and fights Buatsi, another serial ducker, who I don't really want to talk about.
Tunde, it proved a hard fight last time out. Lyndon Arthur, after the manner that he beat him the last time, going into this fight, he started a big favourite going into this fight, Anthony Yarde, and he had to dig deep at times there. And Lyndon Arthur proved a difficult customer to overcome. Was you expecting that?
Well, absolutely, and I think I said it to Simon the last time I was on the show. This wasn't going to be the same fight. You know, you have two guys coming from the same kind of background, two trainers. I think I'm a bit more outspoken than Pat, but Pat can rub people up in a way that he wants to rub them up, and there was a lot on the line for this third fight. You know, a WBA ranking, a WBA belt, a situation where we were both going to be in world title fights next. And I feel that this is what a lot of people overlooked. I knew Lyndon would prepare the best he's ever prepared. I knew it was his last shot. So, you know, I already knew what the game plan was. Take Yarde late because he runs out of gas. Well, you saw Anthony throw more punches in the 11th and 12th than he threw in the first. So I think if anyone's coming with that game plan, they better reassess.
Yeah.
Because AY has ticked that box now.
Tunde, Simon is here, as you know. Anthony Yarde against Callum Smith. Do you want to see it? Is this the fight the boxing public should be getting?
No, I've not been hugely impressed with Anthony's last two. I'm a big fan of Anthony Yarde, and I admire the way he fights and the fact that, and I didn't feel there was a necessity for a third fight with Lyndon Arthur because I think the second fight was so conclusive, the job was done. But in the interests of a 1-1 perspective, I understand the merits of it. I doubt whether Callum Smith ducks anybody. I spoke to Callum and did a 1-on-1 with him a year ago, and he certainly didn't say he was retiring at all. So that's a myth. What he said is that I'm going to assess the landscape and only want meaningful fights. And if that means there's some meaningful fights available to me, I want another world title. I want another world-class set of opportunities, and I want to win a world title. So he fought Boatsy because it was a fight that could be made. I would pick Callum Smith on recent form to beat Anthony Yarde because I think his performance against Josh Boatsy was exceptional. I think he's a world-class operator. I think he's.
So what about his performance against Beterbiev? Who is a real world-class performer?
And he got dealt with by Beterbiev in the same way that your guy did. No.
Our fight was fight of the year, Simon.
But he still but your guy still got
our fight was fight of the year because it was a fight. And Callum Smith on 2 occasions on his, and let's get it right. You talk about recent form. Who was Boatsy for? Dan Aziz, Craig Richards, Willie Hutchinson. These are not yet anyway. And that's no disrespect to them. Guys,
Craig Richards, a lot of people think.
Not guys where you can say.
Tunde, a lot of people think.
They are tried and tested.
A lot of people think, Tunde, a lot of people think that Bivol, the fight that Craig Richards had with Bivol, was a really good fight, and the fact that Craig Richards had a little bit more belief in himself could have beaten Bivol. And I don't think you'd argue that Bivol is a world-class fighter, given the fact he's just beaten Beterbiev. So I think we can all make arguments.
The point what I'm saying is, for you to make such a statement, who has Callum Smith fought and beat of a level where you can say they are world-class fighters? Because guess what?
Put it back to you then. Put it back to you then about Anthony. Who's Anthony beat?
Lyndon Arthur fought Bivol and lost on points. Bivol is now the undisputed champion.
But Tunde,
we fought Beterbiev. We lost in a fight of the year. Beterbiev was the undisputed champion.
Same argument.
Callum Smith has fought both guys and never even looked like he won a round. So how have you managed to say that he's in a better position, a better place than Anthony Yarde? When in truth,
I think he's a better fighter.
Callum Smith has only ever beaten a fighter like George Grove, a British fighter at the end of his career. To this day, Callum Smith has not fought competitively against a world cup. Was Anthony Yarde competitive against Kovalev? Yes, he was.
Yeah, but he lost.
Stopped him in the 8th round. Was Anthony Yarde competitive against Beterbiev?
But he lost.
He gave Beterbiev life and death.
But he lost.
Spencer Oliver is sitting right next to you. He told you it was the best fight, one of the best fights he ever did.
It was a great fight.
I was there. I was there, Tunde. I was there. I think it was a great fight. I think the fight against Beterbiev was brilliant.
It was fight of the year. The British Boxing Board of Control, which is our governing body,
on current form,
named it the fight of the year. It wasn't named the fight of the year because it wasn't a fight.
Yeah, fine.
Nobody said Beterbiev against
you've landed your point. You've landed your point.
Nobody said Beterbiev against Canelo was the fight of the year.
But he lost.
It was no. We're talking about performances, and we're talking about meriting the two fighters, Callum Smith and Anthony Yarde.
Spencer, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Who do you think wins?
When you're looking at recent performances and you look at Callum Smith's last performance and you look at Anthony Yarde's last performance, you go, did we underestimate actually how good Lyndon Arthur was, or was Anthony Yarde lacklustre to the Anthony Yarde that we've seen in previous fights? Because he had to dig deep there, Tunde. That's a fair comment.
No, Spencer. Sorry, sir. That means you are undermining.
No, you're making...
Wait. You're undermining Lyndon Arthur. You're saying Lyndon Arthur is not a world-class fighter.
No one's undermining him. We're saying it looked like that Anthony Yarde was digging deep, and it was one of those nights where nothing was flowing the way it was, and he'd done what good fighters do and turned it around. But we're not undermining how good Lyndon is.
Guess what, Spence? You're a fighter, so I don't need to say this to you, but I will for the benefit of the two gentlemen sitting next to you. That's what happens in real fights.
Absolutely, that's what we're saying.
That's what happens in real fights. It's always a back and forth.
Who do you pick to say?
On recent performances, you have to go. Callum Smith will start the favourite going into that one after the fight that he had.
For who? Based on what? Based on what I see. Listen. All right. Spencer, if you're saying based on recent performances, then you have to show me who Buatsi has fought at world class. Because guess what? Lyndon Arthur's been in there with Bivol. No, he's been in there with Bivol.
I'm not saying that, but you can't deny that weren't an absolute barnstormer, and both guys show character beyond belief in that fight. And you look at that and what Callum come through, you got to respect that the guy put in a first class performance. In many ways, rolled back the years.
Tunde, let's finish it on the... Tunde, I'm going to jump in. Let's finish it on this. Where are you at then, mate? This lunchtime, are you telling us, come on, let's get it on? I want my man, Anthony Yarde, to fight Callum Smith. And to those out there who can make that happen, let's do it. That's what you're saying to us.
Jim, it's the only fight that makes not only financial sense, boxing sense. It's a fantastic fight, and I was sitting on the same table.
Totally agree with that, mate.
I was sitting on the same table as Callum in the gala, and I said, Callum, he's such an excellent fighter. Tunde, but guess what? So is Anthony Yarde.
Tunde, that will do for us. Tunde Ajayi, manager of Anthony Yarde. Thank you, Tunde. Your next door neighbour's at your door and he's not happy. It's 12:30. So it went Fisher's way. Daveallen has joined us here in studio this lunchtime. How do you reflect on it, Dave?
Yeah, I thought it was a good fight, and after the Fraser Clarke performance, I went to Saudi Arabia really just to redeem myself. I spent all my career being a decent fighter, known for being tough and strong, and the Fraser Clarke fight kind of stripped that away from me. So I went to Saudi Arabia thinking, right, I'm going to redeem myself, good performance, get some respect back, self-respect really. I've been stopped a few times, been out of my depth against some very good fighters, but the Clarke fight, I swallowed it, I thought, and got the Fisher fight, went over there, trained hard for the first time, put a proper camp together, and put a shift in really, yeah. I thought I boxed well, I thought it was a close fight, I thought I won.
You thought you'd won?
I thought I won maybe by a round. At the time during the fight, it's hard to tell, you're not really scoring it as you're going. It was a bit hectic, but the final bell, I thought I'd done enough.
As you heard there, mate, I thought you'd done enough as well. I mean, I know your emotions run high and whatnot, and it's the argument here is, like whether he won by a round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. But there was only one winner in the fight for me.
You called it diabolical.
Absolutely. But you're caught up in the moment. I'm watching the fight. I've scored enough fights in my time to know who's won a fight and who's not won a fight, or if a fight's really, really close. That fight wasn't close to me, right? So whatever way they want to, throw that narrative out there, it was a close fight and it was a one round swing round that could have gone either way. I don't see it like that. I thought that this man to the left of me, I thought he won the fight clearly. I was just being honest, and
fair enough.
And
fair enough.
That's what it's all about.
Psychologically, Dave, did you have a problem thereafter? Rationalising your performance against the result on the night?
Not at all, I went home, I felt like a winner actually. I spoke to my dad, and my relationship with my dad's a funny one, but I spoke to him and he was like, you've done really well, you should be proud of yourself. The public, they'll decide the winner. The judges they'll tell you the real winner, the proper winner by the rules of boxing, but the public will tell you The public are probably the most
Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah.
For me personally, as a professional boxer, this is it's a money game. It's about opportunity. And I knew at the final bell, whichever way the fight went, I would get more opportunities. And for me, at my stage of my career in life, I just want to be in big fights for the most amount of money possible, really. And I knew that I'd done that at the final bell. So even though I didn't get the fight, didn't win my first title, I knew I was a winner, really.
Well, we're glad you're in here today, Dave. And we did invite Johnny Fisher to be alongside you. But the Fisher family didn't fancy what Spencer and Gareth A. Davis said in the night, how they described the scene over in Saudi Arabia. This was Fisher's dad, Big John, only yesterday speaking to IFL TV.
There's no, once you cross a certain line, there's no going back. No, don't wish anybody no harm, but that's it, done. I come from a place where you don't cross lines, there's no going back. George Groves, respected world champion, he said he had Dave by 1 point, right? Have I got the hump with him? We went and had dinner with him a week later in Dubai. So it's not about opinions, it's about the way people portray these opinions with hidden agendas. There's a lot of hidden agendas, and as soon as there's a little bump in the road, certain people put their head above the parapet, and you find out who your friends are. And I'd rather know who my enemies are through things like that, so there you go. People might say I'm a bit over the top, so I live my life. Yeah, but I'd rather die than lose honour in myself. I would. Trust me, there's honour in this life, you have to live by a code. As soon as you lose that, you might as well not be living. And that's the truth. Right, when I drop down dead when I walk out here, couldn't care less. But as long as I've done everything right in my life, when I'm gone, people talk about me in the right way, that means more to me than anything.
That was Big John. Have you got an agenda?
Yeah, I don't know what he's going on about there. And it's not about Big John either. It was about young Johnny Fisher. And I did have an opinion on it. And like I said to you, maybe, you know, the words that you use, you're caught up in that emotion. And you saw one guy that should have got the decision, not get the decision. And you just call it as it is. But, yeah, saying, you know, about all this, you know, people in my life and, you know, we can't be having that. It's not about Big John. It was about little Johnny Fisher, who's a great guy. And, you know, his dad's talking about this narrative that everybody's throwing out there. He's sort of turning it into his own agenda, isn't he?
Yeah.
And it's not about him. It's about the son and who we thought won and lost.
Dave,
they get a chance to right the wrongs.
Where do you see the level of Johnny Fisher?
About the same as myself at the moment, I guess. The first fight was close. I'm a good old pro, really. I've been at the top level and come up short, fair way short at times. Probably could have done more with my career, but I haven't. So you have to take it for what it is. I'm a good pro, around British title level. On a good day, I think I can win the British title with the right opponent. So Johnny Fisher's around there at the moment. Yeah, where he can go. I'm not so sure. Saturday will tell us a lot. Saturday will either be the beginning of him. If he wins on Saturday, he's the next world champion again, for a certain amount of time.
And you have the utmost faith in the scoring system this Saturday?
Yeah, I'm not interested in the scoring system. If I win the fight, I know I've won the fight. In Saudi Arabia, I was pretty confident I'd won the fight, and after the fight, I didn't get the result, but I was more than happy in my own mind that I'd won it. I'm not interested what three judges think of me or what anyone really thinks. I was happy with my performance. I go home really happy. So as for Johnny Fisher is a mate of mine, but with boxing, I say it how I see it. Like, he's a good fighter. We're both good fighters.
Can I ask
That's what we are. Johnny Fisher may go on to be better. I am what I am. We know what I am. It's been shown and proven a million times. So I'm just happy to be here, really.
Can I ask you where you're at the moment, you know, in your career? It's been a real roller coaster of a career for you. You've had your ups and you've had your downs, you know, beating Lucas Brown, a former world champion, and then, you know, losing to David Price. And I thought your career was done by then, by the way. I think you had retired for some time after that. But the way that you bounced back now, they obviously underestimated you going into this one. Thought it was a good name to have on the CB. You delivered and put in a good performance. Where's your head at right now? Because you're quite an emotional guy, aren't you? Sometimes you're really on it, and maybe sometimes you've been known in the past not to be on it. Coming off the back of that fight, where's your head now?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. First of all, like, it's I didn't think I'd still be boxing at 33. I started boxing just to, like, I don't even know why I started, to please my dad, to not have to go to work from 16 till 67. I'm not a big fighting man, you know. I'm just a nice, steady guy, really. I'm not a hard man at all. I just box for it's my living now. Like, there's no real hidden agenda. I want to win this title, I want to win that title, I want to make as much money as I can, have a nice life, and just disappear and go and be David somewhere. That's all it is. Like, I'm not here to make out I'm the best fighter in the world. I'm going to do this and that to Johnny Fisher. On Saturday night, I prepared really well. I've become a professional sportsman now. Years ago, I was just like turning up for the crack, really. I was a young kid having a really good time of it. Turning up, not trained, I had a good time. And now I'm a professional sportsman. That's what I am now. Like, I'm not the best, but I am professional.
You're a bit reluctant about what you do, aren't you? I've known you a while.
Yeah.
You're a bit reluctant about doing what you do and being in the limelight, but you are, Dave.
Yeah, I'm quite introverted, really. Like, I'm quite. I can be the loudest guy in the room, but sometimes I can be quite an introvert as well. So, yeah, I struggle sometimes. I'm either all in or not in at all.
Yeah,
but Saturday, I'm all in. I'm all in. Yeah, Johnny Fisher for me. This is like the first fight was a lodge ticket. I've got a kid who has no experience. He isn't a world beater, and they're offering me loads of money and say if you beat me, you can get loads more money. That's a lodge ticket to me. I boxed Luis Ortiz. I boxed Dylan White, Tony Yoka, Olympic medalists. And now I'm watching Johnny Fisher, who's not bad. But if I can't give him a decent fight, what am I doing boxing? That's how I feel. Because I've been national amateur champion 14 years ago.
Well, Jamie Moore, top trainer, is going to join us for the next part. But Dave, your trainer, of course, good luck on Saturday. May the best man win, and we shall speak again. Jamie Moore is going to be sitting in that seat in the next couple of minutes. So as you know, this weekend a massive heavyweight rematch is taking place after December's controversial showdown. Fisher versus Allen 2 is live this Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com/boxing. I don't quite know what to make of Dave Allen there, who joined us here in studio with Spencer and myself and Simon. Such a good lad. Been through a lot in his life and now goes in again against Johnny Fisher. Jamie Moore is Big Dave's trainer, and Jamie joins us live in studio. We're going to talk Jack Catterall, what might be next for him in a second, Jamie. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, mate.
But Big Dave, how do you find working with him?
Yeah, I love it. Every day's a different day. So he's such a lovely guy. You know, I think everyone, he's got the boxing fans' hearts, you know, ever since he's been on the scene. He's had win some, lose some type fights. He'll admit himself he's never really dedicated himself properly to the sport, and he's had a lot of success. So I think the theme has always been, God, Dave, imagine if you could, you know, apply yourself properly and imagine how much you would get out of the sport. And I'm glad for him that eventually, after all that experience of boxing all those good kids, he's got to the stage of his career where he's got all that experience, but he's still young enough and fresh enough to apply himself properly to be able to get something out of it. And that's where we're at now.
The first fight that yourself and Nigel Travis worked with him properly was the last fight, wasn't it? And we saw the performance there from Dave. It was a performance that nobody expected. And I think that, you know, it was a calculated gamble from Fisher's side to go, good kid on the CV, Dave Allen, you know, he's a good fighter. He's known around the gyms, but he delivered. What does he do different going into this one? Because a lot of people have been talking about what Johnny Fisher does different, and he turns up a different fighter, you know, then he should get the victory. What does Dave Allen do different?
The difference has been he stayed in the gym in between fights, which is not a regular Dave Allen trait. And going back to what he said before, I've got to disagree with him. He doesn't give himself enough justice. You know, we worked with him for the Fraser Clark fight, and it wasn't a full type of training camp. It was probably only seven or 8 weeks. But, you know, he was fit enough. And in all honesty, he'd not sparred properly for a long time. So it wasn't the right time for him to go in with someone like Fraser Clark. But he made the best of it. We got the best out of him what we could. I pulled him out of that fight. He said before, I heard him say, I quit, and he didn't quit. I pulled him out and he argued with me in the corner until the point I said, Dave, I don't care what you're saying, I'm pulling you. So I'm doing him justice here. I wouldn't allow him to carry on in that fight if I didn't feel like he was able, in a position
Simon,
to win.
You sat, before Jamie came in, you sat and you listened to Dave, and I watched you, you're listening very closely to him. What's your take about Dave, where he's at, and what boxing means to him?
Well, I think that when you hear someone say, a fighter say that they've swallowed the fight, you're a bit taken aback. Now, Jamie's put a different spin on that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very self-effacing. I don't know whether it's a protection mechanism, whether he's uncomfortable in the media, whether he's not one of those that like to toot his own horn. And I thought in the Fraser Clark fight, he was poor. I thought it was a poor performance from him. And I was worried for him after the David Price fight, you know, for a variety of different reasons. But when you listen to him, I mean, there's something refreshing about someone's honesty about, I want to go over to Saudi Arabia and I want to regain some of my respect in myself and redeem myself. Now, obviously, it's coming from a narrative of the point that he made that Jamie's contradicting. I mean, I think he won the first fight against Johnny Fisher. I'm not interested in all the background noise about whether he was too much with the hyperbole, Spencer, and whether Johnny Fisher's father's got offended by it. I think that's a load of old fanny. I couldn't care less. I think Dave Allen won the fight. And I think if there's any justice in the world, he'll go win the fight again on Saturday.
Yeah.
But I think he's an admirable young man, isn't he? I mean, I think, there are certain people that operate in the media in some ways, and there are others that operate in others. And I think sitting in the studio with him, you can't come away from anything other than what most people think about him, which is you like him and you want him to do well.
Yeah, it's hard not to like him, isn't it, Jamie?
Exactly. When he rang me, when the first fight with Johnny Fisher was, he agreed to it, and he rang me back and he said, "Listen, Eddie said that the terms are you take this fight serious and you get a good trainer. Will you work with the fight?" And I was like, "Of course I will." Like, it's not even a question, because he's such a nice, beautiful guy, and I know I see the potential in him from a boxing point of view, and he's applied himself so well to this, especially considering it was Christmas time, and I know he beats himself up, I'll put a bit of weight on and stuff, but the way he applied himself...
Is he better prepared this time? Even better prepared, Jamie?
Absolutely. I said last time, I think he was about 60% of his potential last time, and with all my fighters to talk about having the base, if you come with me with a good solid base, then we can sort of get that point of peaking higher, and he came to me with a much better base this time.
And you've done that with a lot of fighters. One other fighter you trained, Jamie, Jack Catterall. News coming through to us, I don't know if you can elaborate on it in the little time we've got left. Harlem Eubank next for him.
It's looking like that, yeah. I mean, it's not final, it's not definitely done, but it's looking that way, and it's a good fight for Jack. Harlem's a good fighter, solid fighter. He's not fought at the level Jack has, but he's an unbeaten fighter, and I say this a lot, even with my guys coming through, people talk about they're not world class, but you don't know whether they're world class until they actually box at that level. So we'll see if Harlem's going to be there, but I feel like it's a good fight for Jack, because we can't afford these treading water fights with someone like Jack. He's 32 years old. He needs to be still involved in these big fights, and I feel like Harlem Eubank's perfect.
How does he motivate himself for a fight like Harlem Eubank when you go, he should have been undisputed lightweight champion? We all know the story with Josh Taylor, the robbery that occurred there, and he beat him without those titles on the line next time. How does he pick himself back up and motivate himself at this stage of his career?
You just have to be very professional, and I can honestly say the most consummate professional I've ever come across is Jack Catterall. Like, for 3 or 4 years he was waiting for a world title shot, and he was not one day out of the gym. He waited and waited and waited, and when he got his opportunity, he took it, and unfortunately the decision didn't go in our way, but he stayed at that level now, and he's got the most out of his career.
I mean, if I'm Jack Catterall, I'd feel a sense of righteous injustice, because you beat Josh Taylor, you then have to go on a series of fights that are all high-level fights with Linares, whether it's Regis Prograis, and then you have one fight too many against Barbosa, and that really, he should have been a world champion by that time. It's unfair. So what will get him going, I suspect, is the injustice of his circumstances.
Yeah, as you said before, if there's any justice in the world, like with Dave Allen, then soon enough Jack Catterall will be a world champion.
And that's a great way to end today. Jamie, great having you on board today.
Cheers, boys.
It's a good one on Saturday night. Dave Allen going in against Johnny Fisher again. You're working on that?
No, I'm not working on that.
You're going anywhere near it?
Are you surprised?
Big John, this is Spencer Oliver. Spencer, this is Big John. Put me down,
I will say, I've not got the issue here at all. Big John's got the issue, obviously, from the comments that I made, but we got to...
What do you care, anyway?
Listen, I don't care at all, but we have to say the right man... Well, the wrong man got the decision that night, and that's where we're at. Whether it's a round, 2 rounds,
and you'll continue to say that, but nowhere near the copper box on Saturday. Simon, thank you for today, mate. Jamie Moore, thanks for stopping by, and we wish Dave and Johnny well for their fight on Saturday night. This Thursday lunchtime, we're coming up to 1 o'clock.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.